Guys, this is Mike Shepard here with AskMen, and today we are doing our Valentine's Day Hangout. So those terms pretty much speak for themselves. It involves two things: hanging out with some fun girls and talking Valentine's Day. So really, if I was sitting where you were sitting, I'd be pretty psyched to kind of get in on this. So not too long ago, we decided to reach out to our readers and ask them about some pretty much basic Valentine's Day questions. I mean, every time Valentine's Day comes around every year, I think a lot of guys get a bit panicky. A lot of girls get a little bit nervous. Is the guy going to overdo it? Is the guy going to underdo it? You know, there's so many questions about how to handle Valentine's Day depending on where you are in a relationship and what your relationship is all about. I mean, everyone has different circumstances, so not a lot of the rules can really shoot across the screen. So let's take a moment first, and I'm going to just introduce everyone around the table, and then we'll kind of jump into some of the topics that you guys have kind of written in about. We've tried to kind of collect as many of them as we can. Some of them are longer, some of them are shorter, but we'll get to what we can in the time that we've allotted to ourselves today. So for starters, let's talk to Alicia Krupp, who is one of our editors here at AskMen. Alicia?
Hello.
That's Alicia. Samya, why don't you say hello?
Hey, how are you?
I'm great, I'm great. And Elisa, who's coming to us from Cosmopolitan Magazine. Elisa, say hello.
Hi, guys.
And then you're stuck with me over here, Mike Shepard. So I'll try and keep the camera on the lovely girls as much as possible and off me, but I'll try and control the conversation so this doesn't turn into, you know, madness. So guys, we're talking Valentine's Day here today, and I really believe that this is such a good topic because it really taps into a lot of those insecurities on a romantic level that people have in their relationships. And on Valentine's Day, a lot of those things can dangerously float to the surface, or they can be rescued. So this is what I think a lot of the questions kind of deal with. So where we're going to start really is a pretty basic question of when you're in a relationship, depending where you are, what is the right weeks in a relationship, and then a couple of months you're in a relationship. Alicia, why don't we start with you? And imagine you're in a situation where you're headed on a second date, and Valentine's Day is pretty much floating right around that date. Let's talk to a guy. In this case, we've got a guy named The Dude, who asked if he just started to talk to her romantically, and Valentine's Day is around the corner, what would be a preferable plan of execution to have a smooth Valentine's Day with her? Should he acknowledge Valentine's Day? What do we do?
So I'm just going to throw it out there and say you can't not acknowledge Valentine's Day. I think it would just kind of make you look a bit dumb. You have to acknowledge it, like it's happening, you know? It's just about what you do about it. So, you know, obviously if it's date number 2, you want to do something pretty casual. No matter what you do, if you do acknowledge it, whoever girl, in my opinion, whoever girl you're dating at the time, if you acknowledge it, she is going to think that you want the relationship to progress. So if you do not want the relationship to progress, I would ignore it. If you're at all interested in this girl, then, you know, I would just do the basic thing is take her out to dinner and buy her flowers, and that's it. That's all you have to do.
I like to think if I was going on a second date with a girlfriend and it fell on the week of Valentine's Day, I would just tell her I was out of town for that week and kind of skip the whole situation altogether because I think it's looking for trouble. Elisa, where do you land on this, and have you ever been in this situation?
Weirdly, my first date with my boyfriend was on Valentine's Day, so I have been in this situation. But yeah, I definitely agree with what Alicia said. I think you definitely have to acknowledge it. But I would even say if we're literally talking second date early on in the relationship, I almost think the whole flowers charade could be a little over the top. At that point, you don't even know if you guys are like in it for the long haul. So I would maybe do something that almost feels a little jokey. Like maybe you give her the like 49-cent box of sweethearts, you know, from the like CVS or whatever. So you're kind of acknowledging it in this way that's like a little bit cute, but then like, okay, let's get back to our real date. So I think acknowledge it, but I think flowers are a bit too much of a grand gesture if we're talking like date number 2.
I mean, I find that's interesting considering that your first date was on Valentine's Day. So before we go to Samya, I kind of have to ask, like, what happened on your first date on Valentine's Day?
Believe it or not, it was kind of an accident that it happened to be on Valentine's Day. It was like a scheduling thing. But, you know, we sort of did like an awkward laugh and like acknowledgement of it and then like moved on. Because, you know, on a first date, you don't know if you're going to like the guy. You don't want to come out and be doing the whole like Valentine's Day song and dance at the beginning. I think one thing I'll say that I think is a bit of a misconception about women, I think men tend to assume that women are very into Valentine's Day. And while you have to acknowledge it, women are going to get scared if you show up on a really early date with like a dozen roses or some kind of gift that seems like you spent more than like $5. So I would be careful about overdoing it early on.
I agree. I think there's that fine line. Samya, before we move on to the next stage of relationship, did you have any thoughts on the kind of first, second date Valentine's Day vibe?
I mean, I think it's what the message you want to send. If you want to do the 2 dozen roses, I think you're being really serious and showing that you're very invested. And you know, it can run the gamut. Like, I think that if you do that, you're definitely showing where you want the relationship to go versus if you say you're out of town and just send a text, and I think that's also a reflection. I don't think one is right or one is wrong. It should just be reflective of how you feel. If you want to spend this day with this woman, that's great. And if you're casually dating and you're dating other people and there's someone else you want to spend with, but you want to let her know she's still on the roster, so to speak, you do something small. So I think it just depends how you want the relationship and how quickly you want it to progress.
I agree. So on that note, on progressing, if we had a few weeks in, recently there was an episode of actually of How I Met Your Mother, the CBS show, where they had this term called Doppler or Dahmer, where they were reflecting how in Say Anything, when John Cusack kind of holds the ghetto blaster up, it's like a very romantic moment. But that's because she's into him. And if she wasn't into him, that could also be the creepiest move of all time. Like, dude, get off my lawn, I'm going to call the cops type move. So you're a few weeks in, you've got to know her, and you make a big romantic gesture. Alicia, is this far enough in to really go bold, or, you know, should you kind of play it safe? We had, well, this is a tough one to pronounce, Udo Obichefu, I hope I didn't mispronounce your name, is kind of looking after a few weeks what to do.
Like I said before, I think as a woman, flowers are always appreciated. 1 to 2 weeks in, however, I wouldn't do anything really beyond that, you know? I think it's always nice to get flowers, but again, only if you are interested in the relationship progressing. If not, then I would not send flowers at 1 to 2 weeks. Of course, you know, if she wants to do something and you guys have hopefully, you know, talked about it a little bit, then, you know, a nice low budget meal is always cute, but you know, I wouldn't do anything more than flowers and a meal at all after 2 weeks, if that, really.
Wow, it's amazing to me how Valentine's Day has been around for so long, and we are still at, you know, flowers and a meal. It's still the classic go-to.
You really can't with that.
No, I agree. Elisa, what do you think? I mean, granted, you've lost a little bit of credibility because you fell in love on your first date on Valentine's Day, but I'm still going to ask you the question.
Oh, I'm such a loser. But no, I totally agree. But I would say that, like, after a few weeks as a woman, you know, at any point in time, when you've been dating a guy for a few weeks, you're starting to think, where is this going? So Valentine's Day is sort of like the litmus test for whether or not it's serious. So I totally agree. If you, as a man, are not very seriously interested in a woman, you almost like, it's like Valentine's Day is where you just kind of like totally back away. Because I think anything you do a few weeks in on Valentine's Day is going to be interpreted as, I am interested in you, I like you, I want this to have a future.
Which I think, Samya, going back to you, I guess you would have a similar answer here again, kind of like go big or go home, right?
Yeah, and again, there's no rule. Like, I think with some people, they just get sort of like mired in, you know, we've been here this long, what's appropriate. You have to do what works for you, and if you feel like going to her house with a boombox, like, do it. You know, we don't know what the repercussions might be. It could include being arrested, but it can also pay off. Like, I know some people who have completely thrown out the rules. They kind of do what works for them. Within a week, they're in love, and other people, it might take them 10 years to be. So I think with the guy, it's like what feels right. If you've only hung out 1 or 2 times, it might be too early, but if the relationship's a week long and you've hung out 7 days already, straightforward, you know, I think that's a different kind of relationship. So, I mean, use Valentine's Day to your benefit. And if this is a way to sort of continue that relationship and catalyze it, I say go for it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the level of intensity, and I think the last part is really the people who are in the 1 to 2 month relationships. I think we can kind of lump all this together. And I know, there was a gentleman, Neil Cheney, who wanted to ask about a guy in the first 1 to 2 months of relationship. But I think that all ties in. It depends a little bit on the frequency of time you're spending together, right? I mean, if you're just kind of seeing each other once a month, my last serious girlfriend, I saw her once a week for 2 months. It didn't feel as accelerated as a seven days in a row. So, Sami, I think you're definitely onto something there about the intensity. So, Alicia, do you kind of want to weigh in on, like, does Valentine's Day really change dramatically once you're in the relationship really long? Should you go away from the dinners and chocolates? And should you start upping your game?
I don't know. I mean, I'm in a very long-term relationship, and I still just want dinner and flowers. Like, the only difference to me is maybe if you're in a longer-term relationship, it's okay to send the flowers to your partner's work or something to make it, you know, more public, since everyone else gets flowers at work. But, you know, it's not, I don't expect anything more, nor would I want anything more. So to me, it's really, you know, you save the big guns, I guess, for like birthdays, anniversaries, like, you know, stuff that's really a celebration of the two of you. But Valentine's Day for me is just kind of an excuse to go out and eat a nice meal.
Interesting. All right. Well, we could move on to the next question. Unless anybody wants to kind of say one last note on that, I think we can move on to the next one, which is actually a good segue. So, I mean, we've heard so much about dinners and chocolates and flowers. I mean, that's kind of I think a no-brainer romantic gesture all the way along. But we had a couple of questions here that reflected from Ivan and from Joshua. You know, when we talk dollar amount, I mean, guys definitely have a little bit of concern. I guess it depends on who they are. I won't wait too much into the answer, but let's just go maybe to Elisa. Let's talk about how guys want to know how much they should spend on Valentine's Day. What's your first response to that?
My first response, I would say, and I hope this is helpful, but I think being thoughtful always trumps being expensive. So, for instance, like, especially early on in the relationship, you don't have to spend a lot of money, and you shouldn't have to spend a lot of money. But doing something that's kind of thoughtful, like maybe you're going old school and making like the burn CD of like a few songs or something like that. Or maybe you're sending her a song on iTunes, how you can gift songs. You know, that only costs a few dollars, but it was like, oh, this song was playing when I met you in that bar that one drunken night or whatever. You know, I think doing something that has a little bit of thought behind it. You know, think about it. Those are always the gifts women give. Like, all of us women, we're always trying to give our boyfriends like a framed picture of like the two of us. You know, that's not very expensive, but it's thoughtful. And it's like, guys don't give those gifts, but maybe they should. So I would say doing something thoughtful where you're not spending a lot of money is always going to be better than just feeling pressured to like blow half your paycheck on getting her some kind of great Valentine's Day gift.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. Samia, what if on Valentine's Day your boyfriend decided to spend way too much money on you to the point where it was a bit uncomfortable? Would this, you know, have an impact on things? Are you in the favor of thoughtfulness, lavish? Is there a time for lavish?
I think there's a time for lavish. It depends on the person. I think if you're someone who's very extravagant, that's kind of the relationship we're having and kind of the persona you're putting out there, I think that's would be expected. I mean, if for several months he's taking you to like really expensive restaurants or you're going on trips and then Valentine's Day comes around, he makes you a mix CD, that might throw off the girl a little bit because it's a little bit like deviant behavior from what she's used to. So again, just be real with yourself. If you're an extravagant person and you like going to Tiffany and picking things out, then I would say keep on that. If you're someone who's likes to be creative or making things, like not everyone is good with their hands. Some people are horrible at making cards, and that's just not in their wheelhouse, like especially a lot of guys. Girls too, but some guys. So just be like what you're comfortable with. You know, I think when it comes to like dollar amount, obviously you don't want to spend something on Valentine's Day and eat top ramen for the next 6 months because that's not cute either. But if it's something that's comfortable and you can, you know, put it on a payment plan or a 0% APR credit card and you're comfortable with that, then do it. It has to be something you're comfortable with that's not going to send you to the poorhouse.
Yeah, I agree with that. Alicia, what if I was your boyfriend and I just gave you like an envelope full of cash? Like, how would you respond to that? I mean, we definitely thoughtfulness. I mean, maybe it works. I don't know. I haven't tried it yet, so it's not proven. But so, where do you land on this?
Yeah, I just want to ask what Soumya just said.
I think that's illegal to hand someone an envelope of cash and expect something in return.
Well, now, hold on. This we're going to have to cut suddenly because I believe I have to put myself in hot water. But listen, if on Valentine's Day, anything goes. I stand by it. Alicia, did you miss what Soumya just said?
No, the cash thing? No, I didn't miss that.
Okay, good. So thoughtfulness, I guess, is key, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think I agree with Soumya. Like, if, you know, it really depends on the expectations and the sort of bar you've set for the relationship, you know? And also, like, what a guy wants a girl to think of him. Like, if a guy is dating some girl and he feels like, oh, she's like, you know, I'm dating above me and she's this, like, jet setter and I have to impress her, then obviously he's going to spend more money, even if he doesn't have it, than if it's a relationship where they're really on the same level and, you know, it's a more, well, whatever. I'm not going to judge. I'm not going to say more genuine, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think it's really about thoughtfulness and about making do with what you have. So, you know, like we got a question from someone who was saying that, you know, he works and his girlfriend's still in college and she's not in the same place as him financially. So, for example, in that situation, again, I think it's really about what they're comfortable with. And if she's comfortable with him spending a little bit of money on her to make the day special, then good for them, you know? If not, and if she feels like he's kind of showing off his money, then I think something thoughtful, like just acknowledging and wanting to spend the day together is enough, like inviting her for a hot chocolate, you know, just anything. So
yeah, I think a lot of this ties into what you're all saying is it's know the person you're with and kind of know what Valentine's Day I think is a bit about, you know, figuring out what they would want. But I think it's definitely about not overextending yourself or setting an expectation that will be different for the next little while. I've always learned in life that you want to manage your expectations. So, Elisa, what if I come out of the gate on Valentine's Day, that first Valentine's Day, and I decide to do the greatest Valentine's Day of all time? You know, a good friend of mine once did like a petting farm in the driveway for his girlfriend. What happens on the next Valentine's Day?
How far in were they?
I'm not going to answer that because you know him, and I'll get back to that later. But Elisa, let me ask you, like, what happens on the next Valentine's Day?
Yeah, I mean, I do think Valentine's Day evolves a bit as your relationship goes on. Like maybe that first major Valentine's Day, you know, for instance, my 1-year anniversary with my boyfriend was on Valentine's Day because as I already told, I feel like I'm just like being the poster child for Valentine's Day right now. But so this is what my boyfriend got me on our first Valentine's Day. It was a watch. So that was a really nice gift. But, you know, that was like 1 year. It was like an anniversary. And then, like, I think the year after that, it was like a card.
Wow, he shifted gears very suddenly. That was a downshift. And after
you better do better next week.
Yeah, exactly. I know. I hope he's watching this right now and taking notes. But I do think, I mean, that's a bit of a whatever, but like I do think it evolves a little bit. Like you might have that special Valentine's Day where you have been dating for a year, or like I imagine if anyone out there is married, I imagine like maybe your first married Valentine's Day. But I don't know, like as we all know, it's a bit of the like Hallmark hype around it. I don't think every Valentine's Day necessarily, again, I think it's a bit of a misconception that women like spend all year like looking forward to Valentine's Day kind of thing. Do you guys know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. And you know what the thing is that if you're a good dude, and hopefully all of you are, then you're going to be doing stuff that makes her feel special all the time. So, you know, like this one night doesn't have to go above and beyond, in my opinion.
But know who you're dating, because there are some girls who really do place a lot of emphasis, and if her, you know, she's dropping little hints like beginning of February, mentioning what coworkers got flowers sent to them at work with a little bit of jealousy thrown in, just keep track of those kind of things, because for some girls it is important, and I definitely know women who when Valentine's Day didn't live up to an expectation, they sort of liked the guy less, and he didn't do anything wrong. She just expected something really big and grand, and, you know, she got a card, so to speak. So I think it depends who you're with. It's like some people are very cool about it, and the other 364 days of the year is what counts, but there are a lot of women who they use it, you know, to put up Facebook statuses and Instagram pictures and compare with their girlfriends. So know the type of girl that you're dating with. Usually with age, that kind of like trickles off, but I do know a lot of women in their 20s, 30s, even 40s who it's really important. They kind of use it as a badge of honor, like what did my man do versus what did your man do?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point there at the end. I think we are, yes, of course, thoughtfulness is super important, but I think we definitely have to be honest with ourselves that there is still that expectation. It is an opportunity for guys to kind of do something nice, and you are for sure going to be getting little subtle signals. If you know this girl, if we're talking about the year in or 6 months in, if you know her, you're going to at that point kind of know what she's come to expect. And Valentine's Day might be that opportunity for you to shine, and it might be that situation where she's really looking to see what type of a romantic person you are with these gestures and how much of a sensitive person you are to those hints.
Yeah, and I would say also just a helpful hint, because my question, if I was an audience member right now, would be, okay, so how do I know which kind of girl she is? And I think just a really sort of something to watch for is if she does, like Soumya said, put a lot of photos on Facebook, like in terms of if, you know, if she gets, if she's gotten a gift from you before and she's made it public, then she is definitely going to do that for Valentine's Day. So that's just the kind of thing that I would, you know, kind of flag as, okay, she wants me to do something big.
I'm starting to think that maybe, like, if Valentine's Day is in February, like maybe come December, if you're together with her that while, like give a little test during the Christmas time to see how she reacts to that, and then you kind of know what you're in for come Valentine's Day.
Absolutely.
Great call.
Yeah, that's true. It's like you don't want to be the boyfriend where like your girl is the only girl on Facebook who doesn't have a picture of the flowers you sent her to post. Like that just makes you look bad.
Yeah, that's definitely very important to us guys. We also value our reputation, especially with those sites are out there ranking our performance as potential mates. So we definitely want to be careful what the feedback is. But I think that's great. I think you guys really need out there to kind of just be mindful and look for those hints. I think they're not as subtle as you might think. If you listen to what Alicia says, and just be conscious of the type of relationship you're in, but don't put so much pressure on yourself that this has to be the grandest day of the year to spend everything you have. Be mindful of your own limitations and be honest with who you are. It does you no good to set this financial standard on Valentine's Day if that you're going to build this expectation up down the line either, you know?
Yeah.
So maybe let's move on to the next topic, guys. And this is one I like. We got a few questions about this, Alicia, and I'll start with you because you and I talked a little bit about this. There's Manohava, Matthew Moore, a couple people here who asked about the idea of getting the girl back on Valentine's Day. And I'll actually read you one of the ones here without saying who wrote this too specifically, but to make it short, I've been with the same woman since I was 19 years old. I'm now 24 going 25, and we split up about 6 months ago. We're still best friends, and I'm still very much involved in one another's lives. As of recently, we stopped having sex and only see each other on the weekends. I'm left questioning more than you can answer, but I still need to know like what I should do on Valentine's Day. Should he make a grand gesture and try and get her back, Alicia?
Well, so as you said, Mike, we spoke about this a bit before, and I think you were saying, you know, it might lead to embarrassment. And my sort of thought was, well, you know what does he really have to lose? Like, why not, you know? So if he really, he doesn't know. They were together for a long time. Now they're still, then they saw each other for a bit, and now, you know, they see each other less, and it just kind of feels like she's kind of getting away from him. So it's sort of now or never, you know? It's like if you're going to go big and try and see what happens, or at this point, I think it's like the make or break. He goes big or he goes home, basically. So yeah,
I agree. Soumya?
I totally agree. He has nothing to lose, and I think you should just go for it, you know? I think with him, once he finds out where her head is at, it's going to help him figure out what to do next, because she's sort of been driving the relationship and the friendship. So I say, you know, try it, put out all your cards. You know, now is not the time for him to play games. They've been together way too long. They have a friendship, and it sounds like he wants to preserve that and go back to a romantic relationship. Put it all out there. This is me. This is what I want. Can you give that to me right now? And he has to also understand he may not get the answer he wants, but at least after that, he has some sort of closure, and he can move on with his life.
Yeah, I think you can say that he went for it. I mean, we're talking about one very specific situation, but Elisa, I'll throw it to you and just kind of say, like, let's say it's just a situation where the girl, they've broken up for a really long time and they're not that close anymore and they haven't been in touch for a while. I mean, does it add any more pressure to an already pressure-filled situation by doing such a bold move on Valentine's Day?
Well, I was actually going to say, I disagree with all of you. I think if you are broken up, you are broken up. If you are not in a relationship with somebody that you already were in a relationship with, doing something on Valentine's Day is confusing. I don't see how that moves you forward in any way. And, you know, we've been sort of talking all along about, you know, what Valentine's Day means and what it means in a relationship. And I just think that if you really want to get back with someone that you used to be dating, or you still feel close to your ex, then I think that's more like have a conversation about it. I think like going the Valentine's Day route is a totally wrong move.
Yeah, it's interesting that there's a disagreement there, but I don't think, and correct me if I'm wrong, and Alicia, I'll go back to you in a second, like, I don't think that they're saying that it's, you know, when they say there's nothing left to lose, I mean, they're really being sincere, like, why not put it all out there anyways? I mean, there really isn't anything to lose, so why care? Alicia? Yeah, you want to go back in on that?
I mean, sure. I just to repeat. I mean, I definitely like hear you, Lisa. That, you know, if they're broken up, they're broken up. But the thing is that, you know, obviously in one person's head, they're not fully broken up because, I mean, you know, they are, but he still wants to try something. So I agree. It's one thing if the relationship is really over and, you know, you haven't spoken for years and it's like, oh, but I still think about this girl all the time. Like, now's the time for me to make my move. No, like, that would be creepy and weird. But if you're still sort of in touch with someone and, you know, you haven't quite let go, then I don't see, then I do think that this, I mean, it could be a good time. It's as good a time as any, you know, so.
I guess it's interesting that we have two different opinions there, but I think that that's pretty clear. I had another question that came in here about, this does tie in a little bit to how much to spend, but it's a little bit of a different angle, and I'll throw it back to you, Samia, on this one maybe to start us off. But there's always this tendency for women to kind of feign disinterest in Valentine's Day, rather, and be like, you know what, don't make a big deal out of it, I don't want a big production, only to then kind of find out that they do kind of want it to be a big production. I know we talked about signals before, that's why I think it's interesting to kind of talk about it again. What about these kind of like really clear signals to not do anything?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think that's an age thing too, and a maturity thing. Like, if you know what you want in a relationship and you have good communication, then that's the kind of relationship you should have, and be very upfront. Like, I don't believe in playing games and saying one thing but doing another or expecting another. Like, that's not fair. The guy's not a mind reader. Like, women, if you want something, be clear. You don't have to, you know, send him a URL to Amazon. Like, he can do some work, but also don't throw him into one path and then be angry that he comes back and does exactly what you told him. Like, guys are pretty, you know, easy to understand creatures. It's like us who give them all these weird messages. It's, be honest. If you want to go out, be like, hey, I like to eat food and we should go out, as opposed to, no, I hate food, and then be sad that you didn't get, you know, a dinner on Valentine's Day.
Well, I would really like to meet the woman that hates food. I'd like to know what she's like. But I agree with you. Alicia, you've been in a relationship for a long time. Have you ever pulled the, like, oh, don't make a big deal, but still kind of want him to up the game a little bit?
It's a good question. I don't know, because I've said, like, this past Christmas I said that, and he's still, well, okay, this is bad actually. So this past Christmas I said that because I didn't want us to spend money on each other. He, of course, still gets me something. I didn't get him anything. So I looked awful. But no, I mean, honestly, to this dude who wrote in, I would seriously say, like, I don't know your wife, but I would definitely take her to dinner. Like, even if she's saying she doesn't want anything, you don't have to, like I keep saying, you don't have to do anything big. You don't have to go out and buy her diamond earrings. But, like, who doesn't like food? Who doesn't want a dinner with the person that they're, in a relationship with? That can't hurt.
Yeah, I agree. Alicia, you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I totally agree with you guys. Like, I even think what Alicia said earlier about, like, it can just be going out to grab hot chocolate, like something small, something very sweet. I think maybe this is just in my relationship, but I think in a lot of relationship girls tend to be more of the planners. So I do look to Valentine's Day, again, not as an expectation for the guy to spend money, but like for him to just take the reins a little bit. So that doesn't have to mean even if your girlfriend says she doesn't want anything for Valentine's Day, or not to buy her anything, or not to spend money, and I think some women say that either because they're playing games, or they say that because they think they really want that. But you can still say, like, okay, we won't do presents, but like I want to surprise you and take you to this restaurant, and I'll make a reservation, and like I'll pick you up, that kind of thing. I think you can still do a little bit of a thoughtful plan in advance, still acknowledge the day and make it special, even if you aren't doing like a straight up gift. Does that make sense?
I point blank told my partner that, you have to get me flowers. That's just, you're getting me flowers. Other than that, we'll figure it out, but he knows. I mean, you have to do the flowers. That's like, bare minimum. So. Well,
and that goes to the fact that, like Sami's been saying for a while, like you guys know each other, so you can you start to pick up on those signals, and you learn from experience, like anything else. Like, well, last Christmas, I don't think you'll be making the same mistake next year, Alicia.
Yeah, probably not. Actually,
and I also say, like, I'm glad the mistake went that way and not the other way, because the other way could have been very bad. If you had gotten him a gift and he hadn't, I'd be very curious to know how the dynamic might shift in that.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
This isn't one of the questions, but I interviewed a few people recently, and we talked about Valentine's Day as it relates to kind of when we talk romance. I guess if we can talk sex for a second a little bit. One thing that came up in a few conversations was, is it kind of an awkward thing if Valentine's Day happens and you're in your relationship, you've been together for a while, or you're at some crucial point? Is sex expected on Valentine's Day? And if it doesn't happen, is it kind of like talking to your girlfriends, you're like, man, he didn't even, try anything on Valentine's Day. Like, what's that all about? So, Samia, you want to jump in on this one?
Wait, who didn't try anything? He didn't or she didn't?
Let's say sex does not happen on Valentine's Day because for whatever reason, maybe nobody tried anything, but next day everyone's kind of like, wow, it was a big romantic thing, but nothing sexual happened. Is that kind of a red flag?
Again, it's what kind of relationship do you have? I mean, if he didn't try anything because he was traveling and his Skype connection didn't work and nothing could go down, I mean, that's just par for the course. But yeah, if you were like on a pretty consistent like run and then that one day something goes off, like that could be another conversation. I mean, I think it's one or the other. It's either you're consistent and that one day something didn't happen, which to me isn't a cause for concern, or over a long period of time you're not having sex and you may not want to be in a relationship with that person unless it's been established that we're in a relationship and sex just isn't a part of it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's more any kind of hiccup in that situation is going to be different. I've just often wondered, like, the pressure feels a bit on romantically on Valentine's Day, Alicia. No?
I mean, I guess my question would be, what happens if you haven't had sex yet and you're just dating maybe like week 1, week 2? Is there an expectation, from both sides? I think that would be my question, and I think the answer is yes. If you're sort of getting to know each other, you spent Valentine's Day together, I think at least as a girl, you're viewing that as something as serious as happening with this relationship. So I think that's when probably you're going to get a little bit more, I wouldn't say pressured, but you're going to be a little bit more pushed towards intimacy, maybe quicker than otherwise you would.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good place because it brings us full circle back to the beginning of like where you are in Valentine's Day. Like if I'm 2 weeks in, and Alicia, I'll throw it to you, like, is it too presumptuous to have rose petals going right up to the bedroom?
Hell yeah. 2 weeks in? Oh, I would run in the other direction. I think you're a big stalker.
Now that's just unfair. It's just a theoretical example.
I mean, that's just creepy. Like, even now in my relationship, if there were rose petals going to the bedroom, I would be like, what just happened to you?
I think so far my two examples have made me creeper and seeker of prostitute. That's really what I've come across. So I'm going to just leave you guys to do the
Luck,
talking
Mike.
right now.
Yeah.
I would actually, women, tell me if you agree with this. I think roses are a bit of like a cliche anyway. Like if you're sending her flowers, I think just kind of like steer away from roses, steer away from rose petals. That's my advice to men of the world.
Yeah, no, I would agree. And getting back to the sex thing, I mean, for sure, if it's 2 weeks in and you're seeing each other on Valentine's Day, you haven't had sex, there's no question I'm expecting, sex. I mean, that's just, it's you've kind of ramped up the intimacy factor, especially when you're seeing each other on Valentine's Day. So
hold on, how are my rose petals so creepy suddenly for a girl who 2 weeks in is ready for sex? Wait, why is my gesture not more Doppler than Dahmer?
You know what, Mike? I can't answer that. I really can't. It must be my psychological issues speaking there.
Well, I think that's a kind of a good place where it brings us, is that once again, it's clear. I guess it depends, again, how much time have you spent together over the past 2 weeks as well. If you've only seen each other once and it's your second date, it's a very different ballgame than if you've just hit it off and spent every day together. I think at that point, Valentine's Day is a good opportunity to kind of seek that romantic closure, for lack of a better term.
Yeah,
So,
and what about for like 6 months in? Like is it expected? I think probably. I think it is. I think Valentine's Day is the time for intimacy, sexual and mental. So I do think it is expected.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going with it as well. Is I think that if you are in a relationship where a lot of people, after a little while, it gets a little bit more complacent. You're not doing those big romantic things as often as you are, and maybe you're not having as active a sex life as you were before. It's a good opportunity to say, like, well, Valentine's Day coming up, like, it's potentially a good situation to kind of reignite flames, isn't it?
Definitely, yeah. It's a good opportunity if you're just beginning a relationship, and if you're long in one to sort of reignite flames and validate why you two are with each other.
I agree. I think that's actually a pretty good place where we've addressed most of the questions, and we're kind of getting long on time, but I would like to go back around to each of you guys just to kind of maybe give your final takeaway on Valentine's Day for the guys out there, if we haven't really covered something, if there's something you really want to drive home. So, Samya, why don't we start with you?
I think Valentine's Day is definitely important, but know the person you're with and know who you are too. And if you're in an adult relationship where you're not playing games and you want to have an honest relationship, be yourself and be very true to who she is as well. And don't worry about what Hallmark and your friends and Instagram and Facebook and your mama say. Just do what works for you. It's two people in a traditional relationship. So it should be just you guys. It shouldn't be you guys and the whole world. If it works for you, it works for you. Don't worry about what anybody else does or says. At the end of the day, it's your relationship, so own it.
That's good. Maybe Elisa, will go with you before we get to our AskMen expert. Why don't we get some final thoughts?
Sure. I mean, I just want to say that I love Valentine's Day. I know it kind of has like a weird reputation these days, but I always think about when we were kids and it was all about like candy hearts and like making Valentine's Day boxes in like second grade, and it was just like candy and sugar and fun. I think kind of just like bring that back into it. It doesn't have to be super mushy. It doesn't have to be super romantic. Just make it fun and make it about your partner and being in love. And the other thing I would say is this is a little like pro tip from a girl. It's better to call the local florist and have them deliver flowers than go through 1-800-flowers.com. Just putting that out there.
That's actually a very helpful tip that I think a lot of guys will appreciate. So note to self.
Yeah.
Pay heed to that. And Alicia, why don't you bring it home for AskMen here?
I agree with both of these girls. I think that just make it special for you two. I think it's really key to know who you're dating, and even if it's in the first 2 weeks, I think you can kind of get a good enough sense of someone to sort of know what her expectations are, generally speaking. Again, like I keep saying throughout this whole thing, I don't think you can go wrong with dinner and flowers. And yeah, that's about it. I think and just, you know, go to your local flower shop, obviously.
Well, obviously now we know that that's a rule. So I think that's it, guys. Don't think you can ask for some better advice than you've gotten from these girls today. I mean, I think the most important takeaway that I've taken from it as a guy is to really be true to yourself and pay attention to what is going on in your relationship, and pay attention to those signals that she may be dropping you, and just pay attention to your relationship in general. That's always good advice. So good luck on your Valentine's Day. We'll say thank you to Sonia, Alicia, and Elisa for joining us. And we will see you on the next Google Hangout, which we will let you know when it's happening soon. It will be before the next Valentine's Day, I can promise you that. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time. Bye for now.
Bye.
Bye.